Question 1. Read the following passage. During a traffic stop, an officer's primary objective is to ensure the safety of all individuals involved, including themselves, the occupants of the stopped vehicle, and any bystanders. This paramount concern dictates initial actions, such as choosing a safe pullover location and maintaining situational awareness. Secondary objectives include enforcing traffic laws and documenting the encounter. Officers must remain vigilant for any signs of danger, consistently assessing the environment and the behavior of the vehicle's occupants. Based on the passage, which of the following is considered the most important objective during a traffic stop? A. Enforcing traffic laws. B. Documenting the encounter. C. Ensuring the safety of all involved. D. Choosing a safe pullover location. Answer: C. Ensuring the safety of all involved. The passage explicitly states that an officer's primary objective is to ensure the safety of all individuals involved, emphasizing this with the phrase, "This paramount concern dictates initial actions." While enforcing laws, documenting, and choosing a safe location are important, the core concept tested here is identifying the overarching priority as stated in the text. Remember to look for words like primary, paramount, or most important, to pinpoint the main idea in reading comprehension questions. Question 2. Which of the following sentences correctly uses parallel structure? A. The suspect was advised of his rights, apprehended, and transported to the station. B. The suspect was advised of his rights, apprehending, and transported to the station. C. The suspect was advised of his rights, apprehended, and was transported to the station. D. The suspect was advised of his rights, apprehension, and transport to the station. Answer: A. The suspect was advised of his rights, apprehended, and transported to the station. Parallel structure requires that items in a list or series have the same grammatical form, ensuring clarity and balance in a sentence. In this case, advised, apprehended, and transported are all past participles functioning as adjectives modifying suspect, creating a grammatically correct and smooth flow. When you are listing actions or qualities, always ensure they are presented in a consistent grammatical form for better readability. Question 3. An officer observes a vehicle traveling at an excessive speed. Upon initiating a traffic stop, the driver exhibits nervous behavior, constantly looking around and avoiding eye contact. The officer notes a strong odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. What is the most appropriate next step for the officer, based on these observations? A. Issue a citation for speeding and release the driver. B. Immediately arrest the driver for marijuana possession. C. Request the driver's license and registration, and then conduct further investigation based on the totality of circumstances. D. Search the vehicle without further inquiry due to the odor of marijuana. Answer: C. Request the driver's license and registration, and then conduct further investigation based on the totality of circumstances. The question describes multiple indicators: speeding, nervous behavior, and the strong odor of marijuana, which collectively contribute to reasonable suspicion, allowing for further investigation beyond the initial speeding violation. Requesting documentation is a standard and necessary step in a traffic stop, and it allows the officer to continue assessing the situation and build probable cause if needed. The core concept is applying the totality of circumstances principle, where multiple factors combine to justify appropriate police action without prematurely escalating or de-escalating. Always gather more information legally before making a definitive decision. Question 4. Identify the sentence that contains an error in subject-verb agreement. A. The stack of reports on the desk needs to be reviewed. B. Every one of the officers was present for the briefing. C. Neither the dispatcher nor the patrol units is aware of the situation. D. Several of the witness statements have been contradictory. Answer: C. Neither the dispatcher nor the patrol units is aware of the situation. Subject-verb agreement dictates that a verb must match its subject in number. When using neither, nor, the verb agrees with the subject closest to it. In this sentence, patrol units is plural, so the verb should also be plural, are, to agree with, units. Pay close attention to phrases that separate the subject from the verb, and always identify the true subject to ensure proper agreement. Question 5. The phrase, exacerbate a situation, most closely means A. To clarify a situation. B. To calm a situation. C. To worsen a situation. D. To resolve a situation. Answer, C. To worsen a situation. To exacerbate means to make something bad, such as a problem or a negative feeling, even worse or more severe. The word implies an intensification of an existing negative condition, which in a law enforcement context could mean making a conflict or incident more difficult to handle. Understanding precise vocabulary is crucial for comprehending instructions and communicating effectively in reports. Question 6. An officer responds to a report of a loud party. Upon arrival, the officer observes several individuals consuming alcohol in plain view, some of whom appear to be minors. The homeowner, who is visibly intoxicated, approaches the officer and becomes belligerent, refusing to turn down the music or cooperate. What is the most immediate concern for the officer in this scenario? A. Issuing noise citations to the homeowner. B. Identifying and citing the minors for alcohol consumption. C. De-escalating the intoxicated homeowner's behavior. D. Documenting the scene for a future report. Answer, C. De-escalating the intoxicated homeowner's behavior. While addressing noise, underage drinking, and documentation are all important aspects of this situation, the immediate and most pressing concern for officer safety and effective problem resolution is to de-escalate the belligerent and intoxicated homeowner. A hostile and uncooperative individual can quickly escalate the situation, posing a risk to the officer and preventing the orderly resolution of other issues. In any encounter, managing immediate threats or unstable individuals is the top priority for officer safety and control of the scene. Question 7. Read the following policy excerpt. All officers shall complete a daily activity log detailing their shift activities, including but not limited to patrol areas, traffic stops conducted, calls for service responded to, and any unusual occurrences. This log must be submitted no later than 0700 hours on the following day. Failure to submit a complete and timely log may result in disciplinary action. According to the policy, what is the latest an officer can submit their daily activity log for a shift ending at 2,300 hours on Monday? A. 2,300 hours on Monday. B. 0700 hours on Tuesday. C. 2,300 hours on Tuesday. D. 0700 hours on Wednesday. Answer, B. 0700 hours on Tuesday. The policy clearly states, this log must be submitted no later than 0700 hours on the following day. If the shift ends on Monday, the following day would be Tuesday. Therefore, the absolute latest the log can be submitted is 0700 hours on Tuesday morning. When interpreting policy, pay close attention to specific time frames and deadlines mentioned, as they are crucial details for compliance. Question 8. Choose the sentence that is grammatically correct. A. Who's responsible for this area's security? B. Who's responsible for this area's security? C. Who's responsible for this area's security? D. Who's responsible for this area's security? Answer, A. Who's responsible for this area's security? This sentence correctly uses whose as a contraction for who is responsible, and areas as the possessive form of area, the security belonging to this area. Whose is a possessive pronoun meaning belonging to whom, and areas without an apostrophe would be a plural noun. Mastering the correct use of homophones and apostrophes is essential for clear and professional written communication in official reports. Question 9. An officer observes a vehicle driving erratically, swerving within its lane, and nearly striking a curb. The driver then brakes suddenly at a green light. Based on these observations, what is the most reasonable suspicion for the officer to form? A. The driver is lost. B. The driver is operating a vehicle under the influence. C. The driver is unfamiliar with the area. D. The driver is experiencing mechanical issues. Answer: B. The driver is operating a vehicle under the influence. The combination of erratic driving, swerving, nearly striking a curb, and braking suddenly at a green light are all classic and strong indicators of impaired driving, specifically driving under the influence, DUI. While other possibilities exist, the pattern of multiple behaviors strongly points to intoxication rather than simply being lost or having mechanical issues. Officers are trained to recognize these signs as collective reasonable suspicion for DUI investigation. Question 10. In a police report, what does modus operandi, MO, primarily refer to? A. The location where a crime occurred. B. The victim's personal background. C. A characteristic method of operation employed by a criminal. D. The evidence collected at a crime scene. Answer: C. A characteristic method of operation employed by a criminal. Modus operandi is a Latin term meaning method of operating, and is commonly used in law enforcement to describe a criminal's distinctive pattern or habitual way of committing crimes. This can include specific tools used, entry methods, times of day, or types of victims targeted. Understanding this term is crucial for recognizing patterns that can help link crimes and identify suspects. Question 11. Which of the following sentences effectively conveys a clear and concise instruction? A. Ensure that you are completely thorough in your examination of all the various parts of the vehicle for any signs of damage. B. Perform a detailed inspection of the vehicle for damage. C. Be sure to check the vehicle for damage, looking at all aspects carefully. D. It is imperative that you conduct an examination of the vehicle for the presence of any damage. Answer: B. Perform a detailed inspection of the vehicle for damage. This sentence is the most clear and concise because it uses strong verbs and avoids redundant words or overly complex phrasing, directly stating the action and its objective. Effective communication in law enforcement requires precision and brevity, especially when giving or receiving instructions, to avoid ambiguity and ensure quick understanding. Always aim for directness when writing reports or instructions. Question 12. If a witness statement describes a suspect as nondescript, what does that imply about the suspect's appearance? A. The suspect had distinctive tattoos. B. The suspect was very tall and slender. C. The suspect had no remarkable or distinctive features. D. The suspect was wearing brightly colored clothing. Answer: C. The suspect had no remarkable or distinctive features. Nondescript means lacking distinctive or interesting features or characteristics, unmemorable. In a witness statement, this suggests the suspect had a very ordinary appearance, making them difficult to recall or describe with specific details. This term is important for understanding limitations in witness descriptions and how they impact investigations. Question 13. An officer is pursuing a speeding vehicle when it suddenly turns into a narrow, unlit alleyway. The officer loses sight of the vehicle momentarily. What is the most tactically sound decision for the officer to make? A. Immediately follow the vehicle into the alley at high speed. B. Discontinue the pursuit for safety reasons. C. Block off the alleyway at both ends and call for backup. D. Proceed cautiously into the alley, illuminating the path with spotlights, while requesting backup. Answer: D. Proceed cautiously into the alley, illuminating the path with spotlights, while requesting backup. The most tactically sound decision involves balancing the need to locate the suspect with officer safety. Entering an unlit, narrow alleyway at high speed is extremely dangerous and risks ambush or collision. Discontinuing immediately might let the suspect escape, while blocking both ends might not be feasible without knowing the alley's layout. Proceeding cautiously allows the officer to regain visual contact while being prepared for potential threats, and requesting backup provides additional resources and safety. This scenario tests an officer's judgment in dynamic, high-risk situations, prioritizing safety while maintaining the objective. Question 14. Which of the following words is misspelled? A. Lieutenant. B. Seize. C. Procedure. D. Surveillance. Answer: C. Procedure. The correct spelling of the word is procedure. This word is commonly misspelled by adding an extra E or O after the D. Correct spelling is fundamental for creating professional and legally sound police reports and documentation. Always double-check words you might be unsure about. Question 15. A police department implemented a new policy requiring all patrol officers to complete a mandatory 8-hour de-escalation training course by the end of the fiscal year. Failure to complete this training will result in the officer being ineligible for promotion for 1 year. The fiscal year ends on June 30th. If an officer wishes to be considered for promotion in August, they must complete the training by what date? A. August 1st. B. June 30th. C. The end of the following fiscal year. D. Any time before their promotion interview. Answer: B. June 30th. The policy clearly states that the training must be completed by the end of the fiscal year, which is specified as June 30th. The consequence of not completing it is ineligibility for promotion for 1 year. Therefore, to be eligible for promotion in August, the officer must have completed the training by the June 30th deadline of the current fiscal year. This question tests careful reading of policy details and understanding deadlines. Question 16. In the context of a witness statement, corroborate means to A. Contradict or disprove. B. Confirm or support with additional evidence. C. Simplify or summarize. D. Dismiss as irrelevant. Answer: B. Confirm or support with additional evidence. To corroborate means to confirm or give support to a statement, theory, or finding, usually by providing additional evidence or testimony. In law enforcement, corroborating a witness statement means finding other evidence or another witness's account that supports the initial statement, strengthening its credibility. This term is vital for understanding how evidence is evaluated in investigations. Question 17. The supervisor reviewed the patrol log, and he noted several discrepancies that underscore further investigation. A. Inferred. B. Implied. C. Required. D. Suggested. Answer: C. Required. The most appropriate word here is required, because the discrepancies were serious enough to necessitate or demand further investigation. While suggested could imply a hint, required conveys a stronger sense of necessity or obligation, which is more fitting for discrepancies noted by a supervisor. Understanding the precise meaning of words like required, suggested, implied, and inferred is crucial for accurate and professional report writing. Question 18. An officer arrives at a domestic dispute where two individuals are shouting at each other. One individual has visible scratch marks on their arm, and the other is holding a broken picture frame. Both parties are unwilling to calm down or provide clear statements. What should the officer's initial priority be? A. Determine who is the primary aggressor. B. Collect the broken picture frame as evidence. C. Separate the individuals to de-escalate the immediate conflict. D. Advise both parties of their rights. Answer: C. Separate the individuals to de-escalate the immediate conflict. In a volatile domestic dispute, the immediate priority is to ensure safety and prevent further physical harm by separating the combative parties. This action creates a safer environment for everyone involved, allowing the officer to then proceed with a calm investigation to determine the primary aggressor, collect evidence, and advise rights. Always prioritize de-escalation and safety in high-tension situations. Question 19. Read the following policy. Officers must ensure all evidence collected at a crime scene is properly documented, photographed, and packaged according to department guidelines. Fragile evidence, such as fingerprints or DNA swabs, requires immediate processing or secure transport to the crime lab to prevent degradation. Non-fragile evidence, like spent shell casings or discarded clothing, must be logged and transported to the evidence locker within 24 hours of collection. Based on the policy, which type of evidence requires the most immediate attention after collection? A. A discarded item of clothing found near the scene. B. A spent shell casing located several feet from the victim. C. A latent fingerprint lifted from a doorknob. D. A blood-stained piece of fabric. Answer: C. A latent fingerprint lifted from our knob. The policy specifically states, fragile evidence, such as fingerprints or DNA swabs, requires immediate processing or secure transport to the crime lab to prevent degradation. Latent fingerprints are explicitly listed as an example of fragile evidence needing immediate attention. Understanding categories of evidence and their specific handling requirements is critical for preserving integrity in an investigation. Question 20. Which sentence demonstrates the correct use of a semicolon? A. The officer reviewed the report, however, some details were still unclear. B. The officer reviewed the report, however, some details were still unclear. C. The officer reviewed the report, however, some details were still unclear. D. The officer reviewed the report, however, some details were still unclear. Answer: A. The officer reviewed the report, however, some details were still unclear. A semicolon is correctly used to join two independent clauses, complete thoughts, that are closely related, especially when a conjunctive adverb like however, therefore, or consequently is used to connect them. A comma typically follows the conjunctive adverb. This structure correctly separates the two independent clauses while showing their logical relationship. Question 21. An officer is conducting a routine patrol when they hear a civilian shouting for help from inside a residence, accompanied by sounds of struggle. The front door is ajar. What is the most appropriate immediate action? A. Wait for backup to arrive before entering. B. Announce their presence and enter the residence to investigate. C. Secure the perimeter and attempt to make contact from outside. D. Call dispatch for a supervisor before taking action. Answer: B. Announce their presence and enter the residence to investigate. The sounds of someone shouting for help and a struggle, combined with an open door, constitute exigent circumstances, an emergency situation requiring immediate action to prevent injury or preserve life. An officer has a duty to act in such situations, and announcing their presence while entering is the most appropriate initial step to address the immediate threat. This scenario tests the understanding of emergency protocols and the community caretaking function of law enforcement. Question 22. Identify the meaning of mitigate in the following sentence. The officer's quick response helped mitigate the severity of the accident. A. To increase or intensify. B. To worsen or complicate. C. To lessen or alleviate. D. To cause or initiate. Answer: C. To lessen or alleviate. To mitigate means to make something less severe, serious, or painful, to alleviate or reduce. In the context of the sentence, the officer's actions help to reduce the negative impact or seriousness of the accident. Understanding words like mitigate is crucial for comprehending official reports and describing actions taken to improve a situation. Question 23. If a supervisor states that a new directive is mandatory, what does that imply about compliance? A. Compliance is optional, but recommended. B. Compliance is required, and failure to follow will have consequences. C. Compliance is only required for new recruits. D. Compliance is only necessary if resources allow. Answer: B. Compliance is required, and failure to follow will have consequences. Mandatory means something is required by rule, law, or directive. It is not optional. Therefore, if a directive is mandatory, officers are obligated to follow it, and there will be consequences for non-compliance. This highlights the importance of understanding policy language and adherence to rules in law enforcement. Question 24. A police report is an official document. Therefore, its language should always be A. Casual and conversational. B. Technical and complex. C. Clear, concise, and objective. D. Emotive and persuasive. Answer: C. Clear, concise, and objective. Official police reports serve as legal documents and must be factual, easy to understand, and unbiased. Clear ensures readability, concise means it gets to the point without unnecessary words, and objective means it presents facts without personal opinions or emotional language. Effective report writing is a critical skill for police officers, as these documents are used in court and for internal review. Question 25. The police department implemented a new system designed to underscore officers' ability to track ongoing investigations. A. Affect. B. Affect. C. Infer. D. Defer. Answer: A. Affect. The word affect, as a verb, means to bring about or cause something to happen, while affect, as a verb, means to influence. In this sentence, the new system is intended to cause or bring about an improvement in the officer's ability to track investigations, making affect the correct choice. Understanding the subtle differences between commonly confused words like affect and effect is crucial for precise and professional written communication in law enforcement.